We got ourselves a crisis in this nation. Crisis is sex. And I'm not going to talk to you like this is some fucking PSA. I'm going to tell you this, dude. I was hanging out with a bunch of kids in their 20s, listening to them talk, listening to them brag. And I don't know whether it's because I was there that they wanted to talk about their sexual conquests to try to impress the older guy. But it's fucking sad. See, these kids don't know a goddamn thing about sex at all. They don't know the significance of it. They don't know how to have it. They don't. And the women are just as bad, but they're not even women. They're little girls. See, if you go up on Tinder, you'll find out that the younger the girls get, the more and more and more they do what they can to become what they, just to be an object. The more they degrade themselves on Tinder, the more they think they're going to be selected. But see, check this out. The women that are a little older, they are actually not doing that. So what happened? Well, check it out. You and I and other people our age and older, we grew up initially without cell phones, namely without the internet. Okay? Now look, think about the first time you ever looked up, porn on the internet, all right? Well, guess what? The younger and younger and younger these kids are, the more and more and more dependent they are upon the internet to learn shit. And, dude, we have an entire generation that not only knows nothing about sex, but they know nothing about sex to the point where it is dangerous. Okay? It's weird having sex with a girl that's under 25 because guess what? She's going to do what she can to mimic what she saw in porn. 80% of women in this country have not had a fucking vaginal orgasm. 80% of women. I mean, they live their entire lives thinking their entire orgasm is focused straight up in that clit, and that's it. And I'll tell you why it's gotten to this point. Because sex has lost its sanctity. It's lost its meaning. And even though we can tell from common sense, we don't have anything make sense because nothing coincides by reason. If sex had no meaning and sex was just sex, then how come when it is misused just slightly, and that's called abuse, when it is ever so slightly abused, the consequences of that are profound early childhood sexual trauma. You end up not developing the ability to be intimate emotionally, spiritually, and let alone physically. No one's having sex to reproduce. Sex is seen purely as just an activity like a drug. Now, when I was much younger, I would have thought, cool, girls are sluts now. No, that's not good. By eating away at the sanctity of the ultimate communion between a naturally monogamous species, where the end result is a combination of the two in a brand new life with its own soul. But there is an agenda that does not want you to see that. Not only do they don't want you to see that the recreation of human life as a result of making love, they want you to see pregnancy never as the beginning of human life, but as a consequence. A consequence that can be avoided by modern technology. Now, while they're eating away at this and fucking your kids up right now, they're fucking them up so bad that the parents raising the kids can't possibly raise them. They have to turn to the government. Well, the government is fucking teaching your kids special sex ed through institutions like Planned Parenthood. Now, why the fuck is Planned Parenthood teaching sex ed? And how are they teaching sex ed? I'll tell you how. They're teaching these kids what blood play is. They're teaching these kids the most taboo of fetishes. All right? In Teen Vogue magazine, they're teaching the fucking virtues of anal sex to little girls. Okay? Sleeping around, doesn't matter what gender you are, it doesn't make you woke. It doesn't make you well-traveled. Somebody asked me, thinking he was impressing me. One of these 20-somethings is talking about, they're bragging about their sexual escapades and shit, and he's like, and the thing is these are young kids that they've fucked more than I have. That's not good. Look, I'm gonna be real with you for a second. I was promiscuous compared to the average Joe. I was not happy. I was living in a slow and constant erosion of my character and my soul, and because all I knew how to do was get high and fuck, and I'm not bragging. Sex is something that is very sacred. And when you rob somebody of their ability to be intimate, and that is a way of intimately expressing with physical action and embrace that which is a connection in the spirit. But we're doing away with spirit as well. It's kind of funny. The same people that will fucking just say the dumbest shit about how religion is stupid are the same people that'll tell you that they're spiritual. Or they'll play with a fucking Ouija board, but then they'll tell you that they can't believe in God. Do you know why? It's because it's nonsense. You will start seeing, when you watch the news, when you go outside, you will start seeing nonsense prevail, but also the nonsense come into existence on purpose. Because you are meant not to look up at the sky or think for yourself. They want your eyes on that phone at all times. Okay? And as much as you read the news and think you're aware of shit, you're talking about fucking social media, spying on us on social media. 2 + 2 does not equal 4 unless it becomes politically correct to do so. How do we get here? Because you are fucking surrendering your rights. And you're not trading them for security. You're surrendering your rights and you're trading it not for security, not for convenience, but for the comfort of fitting in. It's a survival trait. We need to fit in with one another. We need to change the narrative so we fit into something else. See, there's meaning and sanctity in giving of yourself so that others may live better. And giving of yourself as in sacrificing. You sacrifice the shit you don't need, that doesn't serve you, that doesn't serve other people, because you were born with eyes, ears, a nose, vocal cords. And it wasn't to sit in a room alone and talk to your fucking self in a little goddamn box cubicle. No. You were meant to use the gifts that you were given to do the world the greatest good. See, faith without works is dead. You know what that means? You can know this shit, you can believe in this shit all day, and you could believe in the solution. But it's dead unless you do something about that. Unless you take one step in any fucking direction. You just got to do it. See, because if you want to get something you've never had, you've got to at least try to do something you've never done before. At least try. Because how's it going to feel at the end of the day? At the end of your life? When you look back on everything that you fucking could have done and missed out on, not because you tried and fucked up and found out you weren't good enough in that particular arena, but because you didn't try at all. Now that's the worst kind of regret. And trust me, I know what regret is. I'm sure you do too. Now, if you're one of the people that's critical of the shit that I say instead of rolling out, actually, there's nobody that's critical about what I say. Everybody that's ever been a critic has been someone that was critical of just how I look. All right, well, I have this, you see this bone structure, all right? Now, military guys don't actually say this, but there are guys that are paramilitary that do say this about the real military. We call this warrior ratio. The more symmetrical your face is, the more apt you are to, well, score higher on certain aptitude tests because your abilities would also be symmetrical. That's the theory. So when you look at the frontline soldiers and you see a bunch of pretty boys, it's not a fucking goddamn meat grinder for pretty boys. No, it's when you actually stress out, work out that much, and you have a certain type of mentality. It shapes your goddamn jaw. Anyway, what I was saying is those kids in their 20s that were bragging about their sexual escapades, all they were doing was showing how little they know about sex. And I'm not talking about that from a player's point of view. I'm not a player, okay? I tried to be when I was too young to understand that being a player means you are incredibly insecure and you are willing to fucking lead another woman on for the pure sake of feeling desirable. That's pathetic. You don't need to be a player to get laid a lot. And getting laid a lot ain't gonna make you happy. Ever. Because, and here's the thing, people are going to keep trying to fuck the pain away into a big oblivion because it will be, and just pay attention to this, the day will come when having sex because you are in love will be frowned upon. Okay? They do not want families. It will become taboo to tell a child, well, when a child asks, Mommy, where do babies come from? It was customary to say, well, when a mommy and daddy love each other very much. Whoop, the left is going to take that out. They do not want mommy and daddy to love each other. They don't want there to be a mommy and daddy. It's actually written in Agenda 21 of the United Nations to do away with the institution of family and have the children raised by the government. Now, if you think that that's far-fetched, you think we don't need our right to bear arms, let me put something into perspective for you. During World War II, during World War I, during every fucking war in the 20th century, no one living in those countries could have possibly fathomed that they'd walk out their front door to see the entire city leveled by over 1,000 bombers. Or to know that the vast majority of the men of their generation were already dead. Other countries have experienced genocide, warfare, famine, plague. America has yet to experience that, and it is coming. And if you think that's far-fetched, go watch an old movie from the 1930s, okay? Watch it, get into the story, make sure it takes place in Europe. And then tell yourself, wow, 5 years after this movie was made, these people were putting their neighbors in gas chambers, fortifying the goddamn beaches to protect against an American invasion. That's reality. Well, our reality is getting there. See, the Roman Empire collapsed when it was reaching an age of not only decadence, but when all meaning was sucked out of life, and where all was debauchery, and we worshipped vain pursuits of self-satisfaction to fill momentary needs of boredom. That's fucking dangerous. Our ignorance is dangerous. See, if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it. Guess what's happening right now? We're repeating it. And everything's hidden in plain sight. And I'll tell you where to look. Look up Obamacare. Look up the memorandum of everything that's in there. Now, I'll tell you something. If you say that you've read all 10,000 pages of Obamacare, I will tell you, you are full of shit. It's 10,000 pages long because it is specifically made that way. It's a typical totalitarian trait invented by the Soviet Union. So you don't know the laws. So it's filibustered. Well, if you look up what's in Obamacare, they call for more than just martial law. They're talking about actual executions in the event that we have to live in a FEMA country. These people are not wasting their time and money when they plan the depopulation agenda. Ted Turner is one of the people in charge of this fucking depopulation agenda. The reason why they don't hide it is because they think it's perfectly legitimate. Bill Gates, Ted Turner, these guys that are controlling most of our media that Ted Turner does. Now, they put this stuff out there, and this is what they do. Ted Turner says there's too many people, there's too much stuff, we got to get rid of these people. Bill Gates says, well, with a virus, we could lower the world's population by a good 10 to 15%. It doesn't dawn on anybody that in order to lower the world's population, you have to kill people. Okay? They want the world's population to be under 500 million. So for all you woke, dumb motherfuckers out there that are laughing along with guys like Bill Gates or whatever stand-up comedian tells you that humanity is a cancer, I got news for you. You ain't in that crew that's going to be saved. No one gives a fuck about you. You are not going to be in that bomb shelter. And it's kind of like that. I mean, every organization, every hierarchy has its expendables, undesirables, and its valuables. I mean, fuck, the military does. Oh, yeah. See, once upon a time, you'd have to call me sir. Even if you've been in the Army for, 10 years, you're an NCO, fuck, you're my platoon sergeant. Still call me sir. You know why? Because we have a class system. In World War II, we were ending our aristocracy's rule over the military. And what do I mean by that? Well, in order to be an officer in any Western military, you have to be of a certain class of people. Meaning in Britain, when you're a British officer, you come from a posh accent. Their society in Parliament is divided by the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The officers come from nobility. That tradition is very strong, okay? Because if during World War I, when every fucking leader of those nations was the first cousin of one another and they had the same grandparents, guess what else they had? They had chivalry, because there's knights and soldiers. Well, then you had officers and enlisted. And in World War I, just like today, all pilots had to be officers. Now, America is supposed to be the land of opportunity. We technically can't have an aristocracy. So how are we able to make it look like it's a land of opportunity while making sure only our aristocracy could become officers in the military? Well, see, after World War II, only after, the generation after the greatest generation were the baby boomers. That was the first generation that ever went to college and made it a social norm, because nobody went to college but the super rich. Prior to World War II, outside of the Ivy League schools, there weren't too many universities out there. And in order to be an officer, a commissioned officer in the United States military, you need to be college educated. You need to have a bachelor's degree. Or if you're 90 student credits away, academic days away from getting your bachelor's, you can go through what's called Officers Candidacy School. Okay? Anyway, it's equal opportunity in America. So we say there's no aristocracy. We say, well, in order to be an officer in our country, you got to be college educated. Well, again, prior to World War II, the only people that went to college were the super rich. That was the catch. See, my great uncle My grandmother on my father's side has a set of twin brothers. They were both naval aviators during World War II. The other one, one graduated, they were twins. One graduated first in his class at Harvard, the other one graduated first in his class at Yale. My grandfather went to Brown, and you know, I'm a legacy. But anyway, we're lucky that we're Americans, but damn. I don't know how many of you guys are British troops or have ever operated with British troops. I'll tell you something, man. It's not at all like our situation. Let me tell you something. Now, in the United States Army, in order to be in any elite unit, in order to even be in the military, you have to be an upstanding citizen. To be a fucking Army Ranger, you gotta be a real good guy. The British treat their soldiers like shit. The soldiers in England, the enlisted, are expendable compared to their officers. The shit I've seen, the officers are so goddamn posh because, again, British society is divided by the House of Commons and the House of Lords. They don't have a Congress that actually represents people where they live. They represent the class.